Hello everyone, this is Lori from Grammy's Keepsakes, and I have another book that I want to rebuild. This is an 1881 German English primer, and when I purchased it, it came like this. Has a front and back cover and pages. So it's kind of lending itself to be renewed easily. And this was inscripted to George Metzger from Lewes School in September 19th of 1899. And I did find the copyright 1881. So this is a beautiful book. Let's take a quick minute and look at it. I love the old font. These pages are like smooth, like buttery smooth. And I think what I like best is, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? There's the alphabet plus the German's extra letters. So when I do this rebuild and I make this new journal, I definitely am going to include some of the original pages in it. They look like they're so much fun. But let's go ahead and put that aside because we're going to work with the cover first. And it looks like it used to be a wine-colored fabric binding. So I thought I would try to replicate that. And I have this bottle of wine acrylic paint. And so I took this Kona cotton, which is a heavyweight quilting cotton. It's a real high quality. It has a lot of threads per inch. So it's nice and dense. It'll make a beautiful spine. I was playing around with other fabrics too, like this suede cloth. And then I thought that looks too new against this beautiful book. Otherwise, this would make a nice spine as well. And then just plain muslin or canvas. But no, I decided on the Kona cotton. And then I did give them a coat of paint. And it is dried, so it's ready for us to play. And what I did was I just squirted some of this on and just used a brush and applied it evenly throughout. And sometimes it seeped and some it didn't. That's okay. We're working with it. So let's take one of these pieces first. And the original book, I think, was only a 1/2 inch spine, if that even. With the pages squished, it's about 3/8, but I'm going to go bigger because we're going to make a journal. So I cut a piece of thin chipboard, kind of like cereal weight or the back of a tablet, 7/8 of an inch wide. And then I just used a handle of a paintbrush and tried to curve it. And then I also used the edge of my desk so it'll have a little bit of a curve so it's not going to be stick straight, because I didn't want that either. And I didn't want any sharp bends or I would have scored it. But I think just by coaxing the chipboard into a semi-round shape, it's going to be good. And this has a few loose threads here, so I'm going to just try to trim some of that up. It's going to get caught in my glue. I'm not going to do a lot of trimming, just a little. Kind of giving it a haircut. It feels nice and smooth. There's this little bump where the paper's coming loose. I'm going to use some PVA bookbinding glue and get under there and try to glue it down. I don't want it coming loose later. And let's take a look at this side and trim off some of that. Okay, that should be good. And of course, now I made a mess. So let's get that cleaned up. I've got this parchment down to keep a handle on the glare, but I'm going to use that to just scoop my scraps into the garbage quick. Okay. And we're going to lay it down. That's the back and the front. And I'm going to put this in, plus some spacing. And I want to get a rough measurement as to how much I should trim this book cloth down to. So it looks like it was previously here to here, and that is 2 inches. So let's go with that measurement. I'm going to get my little cutting board. And I'm going to use a rotary cutter and a ruler and trim off. I want this to be as straight as I can so it's on grain. And this one is not cutting. Let's see if I have a different one. This blade is kind of dull also. I want to take a look at the grain to make sure I'm somewhat even. Okay, now I can use this edge and I'm going to do 2 inches. Let's do 2 1/8. I'm going to err on the side of caution. Don't need this for anything. And we'll worry about cutting the inside one later after we construct. Putting the cutters away in the pouch. Now let's line these up again. What I want to do is give me a pencil line in the middle of this. So this is 7/8 of an inch. I'm going to squash it flat. So it's halfway between my 3/8 and my half on both sides. And let's connect the dots. And now what I want to do is the same thing for the fabric, except what I'm going to do with that is go ahead and fold it back on itself. And give it a light finger press. So I'm going to match up that edge to this edge. So what I need now is glue, and I'm going to use Fabri-Tac. We could use the PVA glue, but this is a tried and true for me, so I'm going to go ahead and go with it. And I've got a little silicone spatula, thanks to Julie. And I'm going to use that to spread my glue. I don't want it to seep. I do need a little bit more though. I didn't go to the edge. Have to work kind of quickly. It will dry up and it won't adhere well, so now let's line it up. That way I'm sure that I'll have half of the fabric on each side so that my front and back covers will turn out well. And then just go ahead and burnish that down. Use my Teflon bone folder. Checking my edges, make sure I've got good stick. So much easier to fix it now than later. Okay, so now I'm going to work from this side. This is the right side, but I don't want to, I'm going blind here. So I want to flip it over. And this is the front. And I do want a space in here. I'm going to grab one of my spacers that I got from Colorway Arts. And let's just apply some glue. I think I am going to go with the PVA. Let me grab a paintbrush and get the big bottle. I'm just going to pour a little bit in the cap. Okay, my spacer, I'm lining it up with the edge of the paper. And using my ruler, Okay, let's do it again on this side. Put the glue on this part. Making sure I get all the way to my edges. Use my spacer. Line up my ruler. And my book cover. Sneak a little bit more glue right in here. I'm going to trim this just a little bit. And we're going to fold that over and glue it down. And let's do the same thing for here. I don't want that much, so let me go ahead and trim it. Don't use good fabric scissors for this. With that paint on the fabric, wouldn't be a good idea. So now we have our spine, and what I like to do is I use a sanding sponge and just kind of rough it up. We want it to look like it's from 1881, and that little boy had a lot of use out of this primer. And if you want to dry brush a little bit of gray or a brown, maybe a black might be a little stark, but you could dry brush a little bit to give it a more of a worn look also. Looks like a little bit lifting there, so I want to get in there with my glue. Much better. And after this is all done, then can go ahead and spray seal it. My favorite is matte. I think it's a polyurethane from Krylon. That's my favorite. But there's a lot of others that are good matte spray sealers. And that'll seal the covers and this spine. So now we can do the inside also. And we have our other piece of fabric that we can put in. And if you want, you can attach a little bit of Tyvek. But I think with this chipboard, we don't need the Tyvek this time. If we didn't have this chipboard, then we definitely need something nice and strong. And if you want to cover the covers with a page out of the book, now's the time to do it before we put this on. So let's take a look and see if there's something that we want to use. Isn't that awesome? The pages are larger than the book. I noticed that so I don't know how much of that spine had fallen away, but that's interesting. So our pages will fit. We just need to find something fun. And I think I'd like one of the exercises. Oh, look at here. What is this? What a fun little find. Looks like Oliver is trying his hand at some cursive writing. Good for him. That's a little piece of ephemera to save and put back in the book somewhere. Well, this page is ripping a little bit, so I think that it is one that we should use. Look at how it got discolored from that piece of paper that was between them. Well, that's what we're going to use. Or you know what? We could, but it's going the wrong way. This would be interesting to put there too. All that old schmutz in there to go with the book. Let's see if it can be. Look at that aging. It's gorgeous. Well, I can trim it. And here we've got pencil in up here. It looks like it was the price at the antique store. We'll just rub that out. Yeah, I definitely paid too much for this book, but that's okay. It's worth it. Or we can put it in on the back, and then we can enjoy all the aging. I think that's what I want to do. George might be covered up though. Too bad George didn't put his name a little more to the left or to the right. But I could trim this just a wee bit to get his name over there. Let's do that. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. And if it doesn't work, I can always use one of those other pages. So I'm just going to trim just a little bit off that edge using my paper cutter. That'll work. I'm going to use a round cutter so we can make it similar to the original. Okay. I'm going to put some layers of glue in here in the cardboard. Strengthen that corner up. I'm going to trim off this here where it was stapled. We don't want that bulk in here. Now let's go ahead and glue it in. Need more glue. Trying to move quickly so that it doesn't dry. Let's give it a shot and see if it'll work. I'm trying to line it up with the old paper. May not be perfect, but that's okay. I wanted George's little title page to be back here. So now we need our front title page. We could leave it just the way it is, but I think adding this extra is kind of nice. I'm going to go ahead and trim this off. We're going to leave this edge here. We do have a little rip in the paper here, but we'll just be careful that we glue that well. That should work. Go ahead and apply glue. I know it's kind of boring, you know, to watch me painting glue on this, but I wanted to bring you along on my adventure of trying to remake this book, in case there's one that you'd like to do. And you can apply it to you know, any journal. And there's probably easier ways of doing this out there. But I don't always go the easy way. I just like to have fun. As long as I get it accomplished, I'm good. I think we'll put metal book corners on the book also, and that'll help us save our little corner edges. Need a little bit more glue. Hopefully it hasn't dried too much. Line up my page with my old page. And we've got number 14 here on the cover. And yes, it's going the right way. It's like, oh my goodness, I should have checked that earlier. And then when we seal it, we definitely want to seal these two pages also. I love it. And we'll stick that over there. So we need our other little center. And this one was 2 1/8 inches, the outside. And I think we can go with a 2 1/8 again. Yeah, because with it painted, I don't think I'm going to get it to fray. Let's cut a little edge off and see if I can. I think the glue or the paint acts as a glue, so I don't think it's going to. If I can get it to fray, that would be so awesome. Nope, the paint is glue. So we're going to go with the, what are we going to go with? We're going with the 2 1/4 or the 2 1/8. Let's make it the same. We're going to go with the 2 1/8. Go ahead and cut that top. And we're not going to be rolling it over the edges at all, so let's figure out what we want it to be. 7 3/4 is going to be flush. Let's start with that, and if I need to trim it down some, I will. And we can use the lines on our grid, on our mat. Seven and 3/4. Hope I didn't screw that up, but if I did, that's okay. I've got more fabric, I've got more paint. Okay, now we need to do some more gluing. I think I want to go ahead and paint the fabric. I suppose if I used a bigger brush, it would be quicker, faster, and then the glue wouldn't dry. But the brush would also have to fit in my cap, or I'd need a new vessel for the glue. Okay. Get my edges lined up, and I need to be able to see it. Good thing it dries clear. my fingers. Whoops. It's got good stick. And George is showing happy day. I'm going to flip this over. I see a little tiny bit of the wrong side of the fabric. So, see if I can curl that up and trim it out. I like that better. Give it more of an aged look. Kind of a little bit of a ratty. And it's supposed to look like that then. So we'll let this dry completely. And we'll do some sanding in here too. In here wouldn't be as worn as the outside, of course, but it's still going to get some yummy goodness. There. I think that's where a book would be worn. And then with a little bit of dry brush, and curve our spine a little bit more, and we'll put it up to dry. Put together our signatures and make ourselves a little journal. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you make one with us. Have a creative day.